Hey everyone, please support what I do to help keep Greyhawk alive by subscribing to the channel. Also, please consider becoming a channel member to get early access to videos, exclusive live chats, quarterly adventure modules, and more. Thanks, and enjoy the show. So you can't see it, but in my studio here, I am actually surrounded by books of all kinds, including my sci-fi fantasy collection, and that got me thinking about my top 5 Greyhawk books. So that's what I want to talk about today on Greyhawk Grognard. So when I say books, I'm talking specifically about novels, and there are a lot of Greyhawk novels that have been written over the years. Some are very, very good. Some are very, very bad. And I wanted to just do maybe a top 5 list. So here we go. Bearing in mind that by limiting myself to 5, necessarily there's a lot of things that I like that I'm not going to be able to go through. But I, got to keep some limits somewhere. So first up, my number 5 pick for my Greyhawk novels is this one. This one you don't often see mentioned, Night Watch by Robin Wayne Bailey. This is a really interesting book because it's almost Greyhawk adjacent. It's like in a parallel universe Greyhawk in the same way that something like Quag Keep is, where it's obviously set in Greyhawk, and you see a lot of familiar names and stuff like that. But the setting is subtly different. Like orcs are magical creatures, and it seems to be set pretty far in the future, but it's still in a fantasy milieu. It's a murder mystery essentially, and it's a really fun one if you can track it down. It's a very different look at Greyhawk, and I think that's why it appeals to me so much, is because you're going through it, and it's just odd to see the differences between this book and the rest of the published Greyhawk. So it's really neat. It's also, if you notice, it's not branded as Greyhawk at all. They on the back cover they do mention the fabled Seers of Greyhawk. But that is literally the only place that the name comes up, and it also mentions the Deadly Zealots of the Horn Society, which would imply that it takes place in the past, but it's in the future, so something's going on there. So I would say non-canon, but definitely recommended. Now, next up, we have one of the I think this was the 3rd edition era Greyhawk novels. This is, if I can get the glare off of here, this is the Tomb of Horrors by Keith Francis Strom. This I put on the list because this is one of the best examples of taking an existing adventure module and completely changing the setup to turn it into something different. For this one, basically we have a fallen paladin who gets wrapped up with these cultists of Tharizdun, and there's a MacGuffin hidden in the Tomb of Horrors, like the module, that the cultists are after, and so he has to go and stop them and so forth. It's very decently written, but what I really love about it is the way it does make use of an existing setting in a very different way. And a lot of these novels do that. But I thought this was a very, very great example of that. Plus, it's a fun novel in and of itself. It's pretty well written. I like the plot. It had some strong characters. So on the whole, I was very pleased with this one. Now, next up, I'm going to put up Paul Kidd's novel, White Plume Mountain. But in reality, I would put any of the Paul Kidd Greyhawk novels up in this list. This is just, I had to pick one as an example. This is the first one in the series. This is, these are probably the best ones outside of the Gygax novels. And it features a ranger called the Justicar, who is much more of a badass than you normally see as a ranger. I mean, he's grim, he's stark and determined and so forth. So it's a wonderful portrayal. And you also have but what makes these novels are the side characters. You have Escala, who is a fairy. You've got Cinders, who is a sentient hellhound pelt that the Justicar wears, and who can breathe fire, and it just surrounds the Justicar with these funny, almost absurd characters, and the way that the relationships between those characters change and grow over the course of the books is just wonderful to see. They're fun to read. He's got a real talent for describing characters and NPCs and so forth. And he's also another author who takes existing settings like White Plume Mountain. He did one for Descent into the Depths of the Earth and Queen of the Demon Web Pits and so forth that have nothing, that completely change around the reason that you're going into those settings in the first place. And I like the way that he handles that. But they're just fun, and I would recommend any one of the Paul Kidd novels. Like I say, this is the first one, so I figured this was the best one to serve as a representative, but definitely recommended. Now, next up, we're getting, obviously, now we're in the top two. And now we're into Greyhawk, Gary Gygax territory. And the number 2 in my list is Saga of Old City. This was the first Greyhawk novel. Not the first Greyhawk story, but the first Greyhawk novel. And it features, I'm assuming most people here are familiar with Gord the Rogue. This was the first book in which he appeared, and he went on to do a second TSR book, and then there was a series of books featuring the same character published by New Infinities after Gygax left TSR. I've already done a video about how I think this is the best introduction to the Greyhawk setting. It's not my favorite novel, but it is definitely, if you want to learn, if you just want to get a feel for what Greyhawk can be like as envisioned by its creator, this is a great novel. The plot is, rolls around. There's all kinds of things. There's not a single plot thread moving through this other than Gord grows up. But that's fine, because there's bandits, and then there's monsters, and there's almost a Dickensian section where Gord is a young urchin learning to be a beggar. There's just all kinds of, there's political intrigue. Not only does it ground the setting, but it also adds to the setting. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in the Blemu Hills that is talked about here. There's the intrigues between the Horn Society and Ten and the Bandit Kingdoms that's really built on in here, and shows great ways of handling bandits and brigands and stuff. It's just really well done. And although the character of Gord isn't, I don't think he's particularly compelling as a character unto himself. He's pretty straightforward. In later books, he grows somewhat, but I mean, basically his motivations are beautiful women and the thrill of thievery. That's pretty much what he's about, at least in this and some of the earlier novels. But on the whole, I mean, you can't beat this. This is the book that Gygax introduced the world of Greyhawk to in novel form. So just on that alone, plus it is the best way if somebody wants to know what's Greyhawk all about. I would hand them this. So that leaves us with the number 2 spot, and now on to number 1. And for the number 1 spot, I'm kind of cheating because it's not a novel. It is, in fact, a collection of short stories. This is Knight Errant. It is, as I say, a collection of short stories featuring Gord the Rogue, the same character we just talked about. But this shows him in non-quest mode. This is this gives you a break from the Tharizdun saga that most of the New Infinity novels take us through. In this collection, it's basically him just having adventures, which is terrific. This was our first glimpse of Gygax's Castle Greyhawk. The characters do go in there and find some extraordinary things that most adventurers have overlooked. There's an adventure. This is where Odd Alley was brought in. That's the kind of multiversal hub that that allows travel to a variety of different worlds and different places. There's a gate in Greyhawk that can take you to this place, and then you can go from there into other places on Earth or other worlds. There's just all kinds of really great stuff in here, and it shows just the breadth of every adventure. Doesn't have to be, I'm out killing monsters. It's about interacting with other characters, and I would say this is a model for setting up adventures and for world building. I mean, there's a lot of subtle world building that goes on in here that's directly applicable to the world of Greyhawk, but it's a lot of fun in and of itself. Probably the most fun is a story called Twistbuck's Game, which is very reminiscent of something you could have found in Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, where Chert, who's Gord's barbarian companion, tries to get some revenge on him for always cheating him in various contests. So and it involves bringing in a sage from one of the local universities, and it's a con, but it's such a fun. It's such a fun story, and it's so well executed. It's just great. And when I say it's reminiscent of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, I intend that as high praise. So please track this down if you can. Most of these books, especially the Gygax ones, are not cheap right now at the moment. I wish they would be brought back into print. Please, if you're a watching person who could make that happen, please do. It would be a huge success. But anyway, so this is my number one pick. Seek these out. I would love to hear your comments. What are your top Greyhawk novels? Let me know in the comments. What do you think of the ones that I chose? What would you have chosen differently? Let me know. And I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I will talk to you. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.